The greatest changes in children's behaviour come from changes in adult behaviour. You've got to learn to understand how other people tick and how your behaviour affects their behaviour and how you can get the best out of every relationship.
Well, I'm sure you're no stranger to the conversation around education standards of the next generation slipping and teachers constantly struggling to maintain a productive environment for students. Well, you may have also had the thought to yourself, surely someone can do something about this. Well, here today we have some good news for the classroom. Tarun Stevenson is an Australian educator who 15 years ago decided to step into the fray and found Calmer Classrooms, where he works with teachers and educators to tool them up on how to navigate some of our society's more challenging issues for students to help them achieve great education outcomes. He's also the pastor of Authentic Church based in southeast Queensland with a thriving church location in the north and the south around the southeast Queensland. And he's here with us now to share with us. Tarun Stevenson, welcome to 2020 and Vision Christian Radio.
Lovely to be here, Tosh. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you with us, mate. And thanks for taking the time out to share with our Vision family around Australia the great things that are happening in your organisation, Calmer Classrooms.
Well, it's lovely to share with you, and I'm really passionate about teachers and supporting teachers because they really form the backbone of our children's outcomes. If we want great societies, we need great educators to lift up the next generation. And so
you founded this organisation after many years in teaching in both primary and secondary, but then also in tertiary. How did this experience of yours across those three areas of education help you craft the methods that you teach?
Yeah, sure. So I started out as a tertiary educator. I was lecturing in a Bible college, and I went and did a education degree to be able to teach in schools because I just needed to support my young family at the time. And when I got into the classroom, it was not what I expected. In fact, the first classroom I had was an absolute disaster. I thought I was going there to enrich enthusiastic learners, but in fact, I spent 99% of my time dealing with really complex behavior, and I didn't have a toolkit to actually manage it well. My first principal said after 6 months, Tarun, you look good on paper, but I don't think you're cut out for teaching. So I did not have a good start in education at all.
So there's hope for us all, even if the experts say there's not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, one of my catchphrases is this: nobody's born being able to manage the behavior of other people. It's a skill you have to learn. And whether that's children, whether that's adults, whether it's people you work with or you're married to, you've got to learn to understand how other people tick and how your behavior affects their behavior and how you can get the best out of every relationship.
Getting the best out of every relationship. Well, that sounds good on paper. How do you approach the issue of bad behaviour in classrooms or dysregulated behaviour in classrooms?
Look, I have a framework that has 6 key foundations. So if you want me to unpack those very briefly, I can.
Share them with us.
The first thing, and this is for any relationship, not just a classroom, is you have got to have great self-awareness and self-regulation. The greatest changes in children's behaviour come from changes in adult behaviour. And so when adults learn to self-reflect and self-regulate, they will see the changes in their children and in other relationships as well.
So they're setting the framework for the kids to kind of see what normal is?
Absolutely. I mean, kids are mirrors. They do exactly what the adults model for them. Yeah. And so if you bring frustration to the classroom, well, frustration is what you're going to get. If you lose your cool with your own child, well, when they're frustrated, they're going to lose their cool with you. So they will model what we give them.
So when a parent receives a call from the school saying, hey, little Johnny or little Jane isn't really paying attention in the class, there's a lot more going on than little Johnny and little Jane if the kid is really a mirror.
Sometimes, absolutely. I mean, children have I think three main influences. Their parental influence is the big one, the adult influences in their school, and their peer influences. And depending on the environments and the context they grow up in, those three influences will form the greatest impact on their development and the way that they deal with their own stress and their own challenges.
And so when there's a child in the classroom that is having some issues concentrating or being able to focus, what are some of the strategies that you bring into your teachers to help them to calm the classroom? Sure.
So the first thing I encourage all teachers to do is examine their expectations. Every environment needs boundaries. As human beings, we need boundaries clearly stated to be able to thrive. A lot of the time we approach boundaries from the perspective of vague values. We say things like be respectful, be a learner. The problem with values like that is they're not specific enough to deal with behavior in a classroom. You have to say things like raise your hand for permission to speak. That is a respectful behavior, but you need to be specific enough that the child knows how to be respectful.
Yeah, so those specifics, to some degree, they give the kid a grid to work within.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you're speaking about a value, you're asking the kid to self-impose.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit like asking drivers to drive safely. Well, it depends on who the driver is and what they think safely is. The thing that determines safe driving is the speed limit. Drive at 60 kilometers an hour, then you'll be driving safely.
Yeah. A 17-year-old with his red peas is going to define safe driving very differently than a retiree, correctly?
Absolutely, yes.
And so with the kids, in giving them clear boundaries and reinforcing them, there's obviously going to be some youthful choice to want to push back against those boundaries. How do you see the teacher's own self-regulation eventually affecting the kids?
Sure. Well, the first thing to recognize, and this is true of all human beings, not just children, is every human being will test the boundaries that are placed on them. And so children, if you say, this is the boundary and this is how I want you to conduct yourself, they will test to see if you're serious. And if the boundary is not enforced, then they will deem that boundary as being just a suggestion. It's a little bit like jaywalking. Most people jaywalk, even though it's a traffic offence, because the police don't have enough time or manpower to actually enforce it. And so if you don't enforce your boundaries, sooner or later you communicate an environment of permissiveness.
Sure. And so creating those boundaries up front, it's probably a lot more energy to begin with at the front end, but does it create a stability in the back end?
Yeah, no question. It takes a little bit more intentionality at the front end, but it doesn't actually take as much effort as some people might think. And this is true in the home as well for parents. If you think about the top 3 behaviors that you constantly repeat yourself on, well, that's a good place to start. In the classroom, we know the top 3 behaviors that teachers complain about is noisy disruption, being out of your seat, and arguing with the teacher when they've given you an instruction. Right. So if that's your most common behaviors you're challenged with, then create 3 clear expectations that will define those behaviors in a positive light.
And with the definition of behaviours like that, there's a need for the child to hear, and there's a challenge that they're going to come back with. But what is it about the consistency of the adult in that space that causes the change in the child?
So response to the, let's just say, misbehavior or stepping over the boundary, the way in which you respond will determine whether the child moves into their survival brain or stays in their cognitive executive brain. We make decisions in our executive brain. We can make choices in our executive brain. Our survival brain is purely instinctive and it is driven by emotion. And so when a child feels scared because of an unregulated adult who is perhaps yelling at them or losing their temper with them, the child will go into survival mode. And survival mode knows only 3 responses: flight, which is run away, fight, which is have an argument or shout back at you, or freeze, which is shut down emotionally and cognitively. And so if you want to be able to teach a child how to make different choices, you have to be able to keep them in their executive brain so they can learn and then make that choice effectively.
Now, at your website, Tarun, which is karmaclassrooms.today, there's a free ebook there. It's a behaviour management blueprint. What can you tell our Vision family around Australia about that ebook?
Sure. So the behaviour management blueprint is my 5 essentials for managing a classroom effectively. It's set expectations, learn to follow through and respond to misbehaviour consistently but positively. Set routines that promote calm. The way you set your environment up will contribute to the calm in your classroom. The 4th one is understand the function of behaviour. Behaviour is a communication tool. When you understand why a child does what they do, you'll be able to address the behaviour more effectively. And the 5th one is learn how to build positive, mutually respectful relationships. Relationships are the bedrock for any human flourishing. And so when you can build a positive relationship with a child, they are more likely to choose to behave for you.
So right now across Australia, most of the teachers are going to be in class teaching, because that's what teachers do. But what I'm hearing here, Tarun, is a lot of these principles that you're talking about, they're not just for the classroom, are they?
No, they're not. They are actually what I would say are the fundamentals for flourishing in any relationship. And I've actually recently extrapolated that to leadership as well. And so we've got calm in leadership. And I'm looking at doing this for parenting and marriages as well, because if you can learn these principles in your own life, and I say this because I've had to apply it to my own life. Sure. I've had to learn how to regulate myself. I've had to learn how to communicate with my wife and my children and the people I lead more effectively to get the results that I need. And so I would say that these principles are principles for flourishing in all relationships.
And we might have some of our Vision family listening in right now, thinking about a child in their world. And we'd really encourage that family member to go and have a look at the website, karmaclassrooms.today. What other resources could parents or grandparents, uncles and aunties find on the website?
Sure. So on our website, we primarily cater for schools and educators, and we do professional development in the space of behaviour management, where we can come to the school and offer training. We do parent nights in conjunction with schools, where parents can come along and we can talk about effective parenting strategies. We also have online courses and workshops throughout Australia where we conduct either professional development for teachers or parenting and leadership programs as well.
And so on the website, they're going to be able to get a hold of those resources. If there are people who are listening in on P&C committees or in school leadership, visit the website and get a hold of the resources there, the free ebook that's there. But you've also written a book, Tarun, Behaviour Management Essentials. Is that more of the same concepts but more expanded? Yeah,
Behaviour Management Essentials is my expanded, if you like, dialogue on those 5 concepts. I've written that specifically for educators. But we've also written Calmer Leadership and just recently written Calming the ADHD Storm, which is for parents who are struggling with ADHD in their family. And so we've got a couple of book resources that will be helpful for parents and educators alike.
And can you share with us an anecdotal story of an example where you've had a situation that has been out of control with a child, but the techniques that you've used, either for yourself or the people who you've taught, has a story that's circled back to you that you can share with us, obviously anonymously?
Sure. Look, one of my favourite stories is I'll tell you a story about a young man named Cameron. I was a second-year teacher. I was just figuring out this behaviour stuff, and I was doing relief teaching at the time.
Yeah.
And I got a day at a school in South Logan. Now, Logan, if you've worked in Logan, I live in Logan, I love Logan, but there's lots of big behaviour challenges in many of the Logan schools.
Yeah.
So I rock up to this school, and the teacher from next door to the class I was teaching in comes out and says, "This is the worst class in the whole school." Being a new teacher, I was nervous. I felt my chest tightening, but I took a deep breath and I decided I was going to see if I could manage myself well and get a different outcome. So I said to her, thank you for your concern, but I don't have naughty kids. I only have good kids. And she laughed at me. And she said, no, you've never taught this class. Well, I went into the class and 3 girls turned up early and they said, Mr. Stevenson, this is the worst class in the whole school. They are terrible when there is a relief teacher here. And I said the same thing to the girls. I said, girls, Mr. Stevenson doesn't have naughty kids. We only have good kids. We're going to have a great day. And they laughed at me. They got the class photo off the wall and they brought it to me and they said, let us show you who you have to watch out for. And they named 4 boys that they thought were going to give me a hard time. Well, I brought the class in. I'm taking the roll. Halfway down the roll, I call out the name Cameron, and this young man stands up, probably 12 years old, 11 years old. He throws his arms out in the Jesus Christ pose, and he says, Mr. Stevenson, I am the naughty boy in the classroom.
Wow.
And the class roared with laughter, and they waited for my reaction. So I said to Cameron, thank you for introducing yourself. It's lovely to meet you. But I don't have naughty boys in my classroom. I only have good boys in my classroom. We're going to have a great day. And his face crumpled up with confusion. And he said, no, you don't understand. Every time there's a relief teacher, I get kicked out. I said, well, we're going to try something different today, Cameron. I'm going to see if I can be the best teacher that you've ever had. And I want you to try and be the best student that I've ever had. We're going to help each other have an amazing day. Well, he was thoroughly confused, but a really interesting thing happened with Cameron. He started following me around like a lost puppy dog. Mr. Stevenson, can I clean the whiteboard for you? Mr. Stevenson, can I plug the laptop in?
Wow.
Mr. Stevenson, am I having a good day today? Mr. Stevenson, am I the best kid you've ever taught? Cameron worked his butt off for me.
Yeah.
And what he taught me that day was kids will respond to the context and the story you give them. There's a lot of kids that think they're naughty because the adults in their world have told them so many times they don't believe they're capable of anything else. And what they want is an adult to say, you know what? I believe you've got the right stuff. I can see your potential and I'm going to pull it out of you. And Cameron changed my perspective on teaching that day because he taught me that I get to tell my kids a different story. And they don't have to live in the lie or the label that has been given to them by a frustrated adult that didn't control themselves.
Tarun, you said there that the breakthrough you had in your mind was that you could see that the child would respond to the context that you as the adult give them.
Yeah.
What would you say across Australia right now to our listening audience who may be thinking to themselves, maybe I need to give my kids a different context. Maybe
Sure.
I need to create a different framework that I'm bringing my communication from. What would be, we've only got a minute and a half left, what would be something that you could share?
I think the best context is to, first of all, ascertain why you do what you do. I decided a long time ago, I do what I do because I want to help other people change their lives for the better. And so when I'm having a bad day, when somebody is frustrating me, I have to remind myself I'm here to change people's lives. I'm not here for money. I'm not here for, notability or respect or whatever it is. And so on the bad days, you've got to come from your mission and your purpose. And as Christians, because this is a Christian radio station, we come from the place of we've been called as Christians to change the world. And that's what keeps you going.
And behind the family door, Tarun,
Yeah.
how do you manage yourself when you're not a trainer of people, but as a dad in that space?
Oh, look, we could do a whole other show on that.
Well, let's do that sometime.
Because that is a different space because you're with your children all the time. You don't
exactly.
get to go home from them. And, I have had to learn as a dad how to be different because I was raised old school. The belt was the only way you dealt with misbehavior. And so I had to learn as a dad to learn how to be patient, learn how to listen to my kids, learn how to talk to them rather than just get angry at them. And so I think it's a personal journey where you're not trying to control or change a child. You're trying to lead them and guide them towards who you would like them to be. And the best way to lead them is to show them.
Thanks for joining us on 2020 today, Tarun Stevenson.
Thanks, Tosh.